debt doesn't discriminate. Financial problems don't discriminate. It doesn't matter how educated or not you are. It doesn't matter how much you make or you don't make or what kind of family you were raised in. We're all susceptible to making mistakes, and that's a part of the human condition. So the first step is just knowing that you're not alone. And I think part of that is starting to find your people. It really is. It's starting to find a community of support. And the next step is starting to reflect on your emotions and the way you think about money.
Buckle up for a new episode of the S.H.E podcast, the show where we have real and raw conversations to inspire and empower you to be seen and heard so you can create balance and everything you want in your life and business. I'm your host, Heidi Schock, and I'm excited to walk alongside of you on this journey of being seen, heard, and empowered. Welcome to the V.H.E podcast. Be seen, be heard, be empowered. I can't wait to dive into my conversation today. Erika and I have been chatting behind the scenes, learning a little bit about each other, and I'm excited for her to be chatting with her today because we are talking about finances. And believe me, being a single mom, navigating through that journey and the economy today, I'm all about anything I can learn about finances to better my life and my kids' life. I'm all in. So without further ado, I'm going to open up the floor and welcome in Erika Rasure. So welcome to the show, Erika.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Can you just share, kick us off, Erika? Tell us about you, who you are, what you do, and any other things that you want to share at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely happy to. So I'm Erika. Where I do my biggest work of my life is in the financial wellness space. I am a dedicated 20-year plus veteran of helping people with their finances, not only on the technical side of getting your money right, but really heavily focused on the emotional and mental side of really dealing with your emotions around money and using those emotions to propel you into the next stage of your financial chapter, which has been, again, a passion of mine for over 20 years. I have my own coaching and therapy business, financial therapy business, and I also do a fair amount of consulting. And in fact, I am the chief financial wellness advisor for a wonderful company called Beyond Finance.
Oh, amazing. So moving into this space of finance, is this something that you navigated on your own? Like you had to learn how to take control of your finances and move. And you mentioned emotional a couple of times. So I want to touch on that going forward. I want to talk about that because for women, I think finances can be emotional and we can make bad decisions based on our emotions. But is this something that you navigated yourself and had to learn, or is this something that you just, you were young, you knew I have a passion for numbers and I want to learn all I can and then go forward from there?
So I think it's a little column A, a little column B. The first thing there is I think everybody has their own journey with money, and it doesn't matter how educated you are or how much money you make or what kind of background you come from. Everybody's got a journey when it comes to their money. I've not been immune to that, but really this is something I got on the path of at a very, very early age. Both of my parents were insurance agents, and my dad was also diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was before I was born, and he died when I was 13 from MS. And so my original path was wanting to actually become an estate planning attorney to help people with end of life planning and all of those things. And growing up with two insurance agents as parents, and one parent obviously not working for a while, and growing up with things like knowing terms like guaranteed insurability, knowing my dad couldn't get more life insurance after his diagnosis. All of those things really were at the forefront when I was a kid. And so I really wanted to focus on something like that. But by the time I got through, almost all the way through my undergraduate in pre-law and political science, I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. Yeah. And I took the LSAT, didn't study for it. And I just knew that there was something more to this. And I was like, was it really like the paperwork or the, getting the documents together, or really is it about the money part? And for me, it was about the money part. And so I started looking into some graduate programs at the University of Missouri. They have a great personal financial planning program there. Went and talked to the graduate advisor. And before you knew it, I was starting in the fall after I graduated.
Amazing. So, can you share with us? You mentioned you have a consulting business, so you're an entrepreneur. So, what are some of the challenges that you faced? Did you have any fears that you had to walk through, or was this like you're like, nope, I got this. I'm going to make it happen, and I know where my path is going? Or were there some fears that showed up for you, or limiting beliefs? And if there were, how did you overcome them?
Oh my gosh, all of the yes with everything you just you just asked. So, right before I took this full-time leap of faith into my consulting business and my coaching practice. I've been doing it on the side for a number of years, just a lot of years. But in that interim, I went and got my PhD in personal financial planning. So I was a professor for almost a decade. And during my time as a professor, I was teaching personal finance. I was, doing all those things there. And really the pandemic hit. And fortunately, the university I worked for at the time, they were already online ready. I mean, they were ready to go. And so that wasn't the part, but I think a lot of people had kind of what I would refer to as a different calling of spirit during this time where there was a lot of reflection going on. And so by the time I got back into the classroom after the pandemic, I was already getting more phone calls and people were really panicking about their finances. They were having these transitions in life like this pandemic has completely opened my eyes. I want to follow my entrepreneurial passion. I want to do this. How do I transition out of this? And then I found myself almost doing the same thing. And so I had made up my mind after some waffling that, I think I'm going to take this leap of faith and I'm going to leave academia, which is nuts because I thought I was crazy because I'm like, I have a very secure position here. Like
Yeah.
it's not going anywhere. Do I do this? And so in 2022, I took my last bow as a professor. And it was scary. I had amazing, incredible, like perfect job security, but I had also had, that proof of concept for a good year and a half prior that, what I was doing was needed, and this was the time for me to go out on my own, and I have not looked back since.
Mm. So taking that leap, and I'm sure after that fear of like making that decision, but you also made a smart decision. Like you tested it for a year and a half. You didn't just take the leap and go, this is a calling on my heart and I'm going to go for it, which a lot
Right.
of people do. A lot
Mhm.
of us do. We're just like, okay, like this has been a calling on our and a heart tug, and we're just going to leap in. What would you suggest for somebody that wants to take the leap, but they have been holding back? What should be the steps? Maybe I would say it's not one step. I know that. I'm not asking for 10, but looking back on your journey and how you navigated it with a year and a half of proof of concept, what can you tell, like, say, the 3 steps that they should be taking before they do take that leap if they have that full calling and they're making a transition? Because I'm talking into transitioning from something they're doing, it's not their dream, they know what their dream is and they want to take into it, they want to leap into it, but they're scared.
Yeah, so that is so important. I think it's so important. The first step in any of these scenarios is to acknowledge and become aware that you do have this calling, this desire to do something different than what it is you're doing. You know what you're doing right now is not what you want to do for the rest of your life. But when we get down to brass tacks about this, it's what's paying the bills. And so we have to make sure that we are acknowledging the role that we have as perhaps the platform and the catalyst that gets us from point A to point B and expressing some gratitude for that. I have worked with so many women in particular who absolutely hate what they're doing on the day to day, and they get so wrapped up in that hatred for what they're doing on the day to day as like this big interfering thorn in their side of what they really want to do, and it gets in their way. And so the more you can practice gratitude for the good foundation you have and using that as a catalyst by bringing awareness to how you feel about that and expressing gratitude, I think is the very first step. And that's exactly what I did. Point A leads to point B, and we got to be grateful for the journey. Okay.
Yeah.
And the second part of that, is again, it's kind of building that proof of concept. If you really want to do something else, it's not recommended from a financial or emotional perspective, from my opinion, to just kind of take that leap of faith without having some sort of idea of there's a market for this. Are people coming to you asking for this service or product that you're offering? Or are you having to go hunt people down? Are you good at sales? Are you good at marketing? And really kind of refining those pieces of this to try and, determine whether or not there is a market for what it is you want to put out into the world. I think the third step is looking at some revenue from that. Like, are you actually making money from this, or is it still in the dream stage? And until you are in a position where you are replacing a good chunk of your income, I'm not going to say it has to be 100% because when I left, it wasn't 100%. But within a year or two, I was making, more than double, to be honest with you, of what I was making previously. And you just have to, be in that stage where you can pay your bills, you can get the basics, and you can continue moving on. If you are, at the time, I was a single mom too. And so that was really scary, really, really scary. And so you have to take all those things into consideration. I am definitely a big supporter of anybody going after their dreams, but let's do it logically and emotionally stable in a way that provides for you not only in your mental health, but in your financial health as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's so much to break down there. There's gratitude, there is planning and making sure that it's financially feasible and that you're not needing to be 100% where you need to be. Like, I like that too,
Mhm.
because people will wait till they're replacing their income completely.
Yes.
You didn't do that. So that's
No.
interesting. Gratitude, which I think is really key. And that's probably my biggest number one thing that I want to drive home, no matter where you are in your finances, in your relationship, in your business, or whether it's in your job. Gratitude is key. And that's one of the things that shifted for me when I started and relaunched my business, because I started practicing gratitude, because it's like you said, Erika, it's easy to get in the stuff. And there's another word for that. But
Yeah.
it's easy to sit in that and then focus on everything's happening. Why is this happening to me? And looking at the lack, what we don't have, living in the scarcity, living in the fear. And when we can actually live in the gratitude, and I started a gratitude journal, and I'll be honest with you, full transparency, I have not touched it in a matter of weeks. And I can see the change in my life when I'm not practicing it and not doing it. And it feels so simple and so easy. And lack of a better word, like, I feel like, am I stupid for doing this sometimes? But when you look at what the results are when you're actually in that practice and what the results are when you're not in the practice, it's completely day and night, right? It's
Yeah.
completely
Yes.
obvious. So for those of you listening, that was like huge. I don't even like to say gold nugget. I would say gold boulder. Gratitude is key. And I did a whole episode on gratitude on this podcast because it's so important, and it changed it. And when you practice gratitude, like, I don't know how you do it, Erika, but I practice past gratitude and I move into future gratitude. So I'm grateful for things that haven't happened yet as if they've already happened, and magic has happened when I've done that. And it's still, even though I've seen the results, I still don't do it all the time. You would think like seeing the results would be like, okay, I'm going to do this every single day because I get to create massive magic in the next 2 years. And then you stop because something in our head goes, wait a minute, is that too woo? Is that like too weird?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, yeah. Do I really need to spend the 5 minutes doing it? It's 5 minutes
You
a day,
do.
people.
Yes, you do
Um,
need to do that.
yeah. And then I love what you said about, you don't have to be 100% replacing your income. You just need to know that it's possible. You need to
Yeah.
know that you have proof of concept. You need to know that clients want what you want. I see too many people do business and they create everything. They set it all up and then they go
Yes.
to market and it flops because and they spend all this time and money
Mhm.
and it flops because they didn't have proof of concept. You do not need to make something, build something before you sell it. So I want to talk about finances with you. And I'm sure this leads into that third point that you shared that I just lost right now. But those two were, all three were amazing, but those two were like really to me, because it's like, I think it's so key for female entrepreneurs and women in general, or anybody listening that wants to change their life. Gratitude, and then make sure that you have proof of concept and you're figuring it out before you take that jump off. You can take the leap into like the 2 foot pool or whatever, the wading pool, but don't take the leap into the deep end or off the cliff until you know that it's actually, there's proof of concept there and people are buying what you have. And remember, sales is serving. That's another thing about women. I think that they get the fear of sales. Nobody's going to want to buy from me. Am I charging too much? And no, selling is serving. Everybody has a problem. If you can tap into that problem, you can provide that result that they're looking for, then people will pay for that. But you have to be able to tap into that. So let's talk about, you mentioned earlier emotions around finances. I'd like to know more about what that means, especially when it comes to women. I think that's key. Men don't have the emotions tied to finances and money as we do. Like, they could look at a dollar one way and women look at a dollar one way.
Yeah, so you're right. There are differences, with the sexes about, the way we approach emotions around money. A lot of that has to do with how we're socialized. There's research out there that says people by the age of 9 already have a good majority of their money mindset already made up, which is
Wow.
wild. which is wild, right? And so if
Yeah.
you're a parent, I hope your, your flags are
Hear
going
that.
up
That's
right now
another
too.
gold boulder.
Right. Yeah, it's a huge boulder. Everything is workable and, and nothing is all for naught. But it's when I work a large part of what I do with my consulting is I serve as the chief financial wellness advisor for a company called Beyond Finance. And what we do is work with people who are in a lot of debt. The debt often comes, and I think there's so many misconceptions around debt to begin with. There is this idea that debt is just a bad place to be in financially, and there's no real gray area around that. Well, I happen to thrive in the gray area and walking people through that gray area because what we forget is that there are so many life events that lead us to a position of being in debt. And so it could be the loss of a partner or a spouse, whether that's death or divorce. It could be the loss of a job. It could be the loss of your health. It could be battling an addiction. You could have been scammed. It could have been a love scam or an investment scam of some kind. I've seen it all. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen it all. And for women in particular, we've done some research at Beyond Finance, and women still are, a little bit less confident with their finances as compared to, our male counterparts.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the trust we have in ourselves when it comes to handling our money. And part of that is our emotions. But I think part of it also has to do with our ability to integrate our emotions in a healthy way to where we feel like we are using them, for us instead of them happening to us. You kind of mentioned that earlier. And so how do you navigate those, heavy emotions? It's like when you're dealing with debt, there's likely going to be a lot of shame around that.
Yeah.
I can't believe I found myself here. I'm so stupid. I knew better, all the things we can tell ourselves about the financial conditions we find ourselves in. And so you not only have that financial condition to deal with, but you also have the emotional side of it to deal with. And you really, from my observations in a couple of decades I've been doing this, you can't have true success in finances without having true success in wrangling your finances and your emotions. Like those things are they come together and you can't really separate them because money intersects with every other dimension of our lives and so do our emotions. And so if we're feeling bad about our money, that's going to translate into how we show up in our relationships, how we show up at work, how we show up in maybe, working on our entrepreneurial ventures. All of that is going to create either, that sense of lack or scarcity, or it's going to promote and support, kind of this boundless idea that there's potential out there. Even if I don't know what it is, I can feel that it exists.
Yeah. So what are some steps that say somebody's listening right now and they're like, I'm her. I'm the one feeling like I don't want anybody looking at my finances because I do have the shame around where I'm at. I've made mistakes, and I think with women, and I'll only because I know I've gone through this, I'll be fully vulnerable here and transparent. I've made mistakes. I haven't been perfect. I was never taught how to properly handle finances. I've had some great wins and I've had some not so great moments. But for somebody who's dealing with where they are now and they're feeling like it's too embarrassing to have somebody look at and, judge me based on the mistakes I made, whether somebody told me to make this decision or do this, and now I'm in this position. Now it's overwhelming. And when it comes to overwhelm, we can procrastinate, and procrastination can create bigger holes. So what would you say would be we're going to go back to 3 steps maybe, or if you have more steps and you feel like that's beneficial, I don't want to limit you on the steps, but what are some steps that a woman feeling like that right now and listening to you can take in order to feel more comfortable? Because they're going to need professional support. They are at this point, right? So what can they do? What are some steps they can take to feel like they can navigate and move through that fear of working with someone like you in order to move through that process?
Absolutely. So the very first step is acknowledging and realizing that you're not alone in this.
Mm.
We all have made mistakes. And in terms of getting vulnerable, I can speak directly to your entire audience here and say, I have a PhD in personal financial planning. I've been helping other people do this for 20 years. But I went through a period of time where I could not get my own budgeting together. I was an overspender. I couldn't figure out why I can help other people do this, but I couldn't help myself. And it wasn't until I started turning my own stuff out around on me to where I was like, I need to work on the emotional part of this. It's not dollars and cents for me anymore. Why is it that I go into Target and I intend to spend $100, but I walk out with $300 and I feel terrible? and it's affecting, my entire psyche. It's affecting my bank account. Like, why am I doing this? And so I started keeping a journal, in my glove box where I had to be accountable. But I am probably one of the most educated people when it comes to personal finances. And if I can make mistakes and I can acknowledge them, you are certainly not alone. And I'm not telling you guys that to, toot my own horn here. It's the truth. Debt doesn't discriminate. Financial problems don't discriminate. It doesn't matter how educated or not you are. It doesn't matter how much you make or you don't make or what kind of family you were raised in. We're all susceptible to making mistakes, and that's a part of the human condition. So the first step is just knowing that you're not alone. And I think part of that is starting to find your people. It really is. It's starting to find a community of support around, you and what you're looking to do. So that's really kind of the first step there. And the next step is starting to reflect on your emotions and the way you think about money. And so this is a great place to start looking at your financial values. And when we think about our personal values, I think personal values often show up as things like, stability or kindness or loyalty, however you want to do that. But a lot of people forget that we can also have financial values. And getting really clear on what your financial values are is so important in helping you not only set goals, but also acknowledge those emotions you feel around it. So, you might have the financial value that, my credit score is, somehow a measure of my self-worth. You might have something in there like that. And that might translate to some of your financial goals. And so if you find yourself in a situation where you've missed a couple payments and your credit score tanks a couple hundred points, you might find yourself utterly devastated. But where did you get that financial value from? Is that yours, or was that given to you by a parent or a grandparent or another important grown up in your life? Those are the things you really need to start looking at. And then you can start working your financial behaviors around your financial values and your financial goals. And so if one of your financial values, for example, is stability or safety, and everybody's going to have a different definition of what those are. But, using myself as an example, one of my values is stability. And so every time I would go into Target and overspend, I was violating my own value. And boy, when you look at it from that perspective and you're doing this to yourself, it's a lot easier to take that shame away from you and just look at it more objectively as like, okay, this behavior that I'm engaging in is violating my financial value. I'm not a bad person, but my behavior is not, the ends to the means here. And so you can kind of like bring yourself back. And so if you can get real clear on that, then, the next step is, again, acting kind of in line with your values and trying to bring your financial behaviors and actions back in. And so it could be things like, keeping a money journal, or it could be even just learning more about money. So maybe you Google some things more than you did, or you join some Reddit forums, or, you find some people online who, do some great coaching or whatever that looks like, and bring yourself and immerse yourself into that knowledge so you can then start practicing it. And then, look for ways to just integrate it, in small ways into your daily life. We don't have to go like full throttle. And I think that's another misconception that bugs me. And I don't know if you've experienced this either, but sometimes we feel so much pressure to be perfect with our finances. We have to think, 20, 30 years ahead about a retirement, but we can't even pay our bills right now, right? And so there's all this weight and all the shame and all this pressure. Take that away. Just do you. Don't worry about other people and what they're doing. I teach yoga. It's very much, I say, stay on your mat, focus on your mat. Don't look at what other people are doing on their mats. Like, stay on your mat. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's key. Stay on your mat. Don't compare yourself to your friends. Don't compare yourself to the Joneses across the street, what they're driving, what they're doing. Because chances are many times people are overextended. And they're fighting the same battles or similar battles that you're fighting financially. So don't ever assume what you're seeing across the street or next door is all good and roses, like roses, sunshine, and butterflies, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, and again, it doesn't matter whether it doesn't matter what other people are doing or what chapter other people are in. You get to stay in your lane. You get to stay on your mat and in your chapter. And the power comes from acknowledging, like you said, Erika, acknowledging it, owning it, taking responsibility for it without shame, without
Yeah.
blame. Again, responsibility comes with releasing blame and shame, though. And I think sometimes people get nervous to take responsibility because then they start the blame game and the shame game. But that's not true responsibility. Responsibility is just going, yeah, I'm here. Okay, great. I did this. I
Yeah.
got it. I created this. And it's all with purpose and a reason. I may not know what the
Mhm.
reason is in the moment, but when I look back on it, when my life, by moving through the
Yeah.
steps and taking action, taking that responsibility, life in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years is going to look so magical. And yeah, so I love everything you shared. So, Erika, how can people reach out to you and connect with you if somebody's listening and going, I need to make a change now?
Yeah, so I think,
I'm
one
ready.
of the best way to get in touch with me is I don't have social media except for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You will not find me anywhere other than LinkedIn. So you are always welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message, let me know, if there's anything I can do to help you or point you in the right direction. And if you are in that category where maybe you are overwhelmed by debt, you can check out what I do at beyondfinance.com. We've got a great blog over there, to where you can kind of take a look at this, and because any part of getting better with your money is, of course, starting with yourself. Money is an inside job. I will tell you that. No one is going to care about your money as much as you do. Not
No.
me, not you, Heidi, not anybody else. And if they say they do, they're lying to you. Red flag, run away. And so you've really got to, get okay with being okay with yourself, but also be okay with asking for help if you need it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just don't be afraid to do that. You're not alone in this process at all. So many people are struggling with their money. Um, it's the way it is.
Yeah. And it's never too late. It's never too late
No.
to fix it and make a change. You don't have to
Yeah.
sit in this for the next year. You don't have to sit in this for the next month. You don't have to sit in this for the next 10 years. Where you
Right.
get to be, again, it all comes down to responsibility and choices. And
Mhm.
this is your opportunity by hearing Erika today to make a choice and a decision that you want something different and that you want more for you financially. So whether you feel like you're doing well, but things could be better, or you're drowning and you don't know how to find that life raft, then reach out to Erika. You by beyondfinance.com, find her on LinkedIn. We'll share all of her links in the show notes. And that's probably another key win that Erika's little nugget that she's sharing that we're really not touching on or bringing light to, but I'm going to bring it to now. She's only on LinkedIn. That's
Yeah.
it. She's not spending her time scrolling through social media,
No.
people. And I'm not saying don't be on all the platforms. What I'm saying is that's part of money management too, is really being, and I've learned this, is like no matter what you do, what you do in one thing is what you do in everything. So you need to, if you're spending time scrolling, then you're probably spending time wasting time in other areas of your life, which include your finances, and you have holes. You have holes that you need to plug. One of it is on managing your time with social media, because I'm a big believer. I'm on all the platforms. You will hardly ever see me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm in LinkedIn too, but I also not on there a lot. We do what we got to do on there business wise, but where people send me stuff and then I'll watch the video, and I might take 10 minutes at the end of the day, 15 minutes, and I'll go on Facebook and I'll scroll through dog reels because I love my dogs. So
Sure.
that's my like little guilty pleasure, but I'm not doing that during the day and wasting time. So if you're feeling like you're seeing that you're doing that, then check your money leaks. You probably do have money leaks other places or things that you're spending on that you should not be spending on. It's all comes together, right, Erika?
It is. It's
Yeah,
very, and be intentional with your time, be intentional
yeah,
with your purpose. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So Erika, we found out
Yeah.
where we can find you, where we can connect with
Yes.
you, where we can chat with you. Tell me, is there a fun fact about you, something that we would not see on LinkedIn, or by checking you out on beyondfinance.com, or with everything else that you do, that it gives us a little background into you as a woman, as a human?
So, gosh, there's a lot of things. I'm really, really all about taking care of myself, but also taking care of others. I had mentioned earlier, I'm a yoga instructor,
Yeah.
and kind of like full circle. What's exciting is, the university I left, it was Maryville University in St. Louis, great university. I am now teaching yoga for their students and faculty and staff. So I kind of have come full circle with, I left the university, I've done my consulting, but I also went and got my yoga teacher certification, and I teach for them a few times a week as part of what I do. And I love, I'm a mom, a wife. I've got 3 dogs, 2 cats, 4 kids.
You have my life that I had years ago.
It's
Like
nuts.
so
Yeah.
many animals, kids.
It's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, last question for you. If
Yeah.
you could have lunch or let's go lunch with anyone in the world, whether they're alive or deceased, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh, this could be a scandalous answer.
Love it. I never expected
Are you
that.
ready?
I'm ready. I'm
It's
so ready.
it's Kris Jenner.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, it is Kris Jenner. So I am a huge reality television person,
Are
and
you?
I am, and I have watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians since inception, and I just really truly like admire Kris Jenner for her momager type of management of her family. And I think there's a lot of criticism that anybody could throw at that family, and that's neither here nor there. But as a person, I just think she is a fascinating character because if you look back, on her history, she was best friends with Nicole Brown Simpson. I mean, she's
Yeah.
got a very rich history, and I would just love to pick her brain about what she has learned over all these decades. And I also would like to know. I think this was released, but I do want to know more about her plastic surgeon who just did that incredible facelift on her. Oh my gosh!
Okay. So let's talk about that.
Yes, we have to.
Because I'm 52 and I'm like, okay, where do I get to go next? Right. I'm all about like
Right.
taking care of yourself and figuring
Oh,
it
me
out.
too.
And
Me too.
I'm not gonna throw shade or any judgment on
Mm-mm.
anybody that does
Nope.
anything because I'm like, I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, how do I fix
Yeah.
things?
How do we lift things up? Well, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not against the knife. Do I want to go under the knife? No. I have two kids still. I'm like, I get to be here for them, and that makes me
Right.
nervous. And
Right.
I'm also nervous, like once you go there, you can't go back, right?
Right. Right.
So but she like I literally saw it on social yesterday. This conversation is we're taking a turn, people.
We
Ladies, we're
have
taking
to.
a little bit of a
We
turn
have
here. We
to.
get to talk
Yes.
about which we don't talk about on here, but let's talk about some plastic surgery and some
Yes.
care
Let's
and
do
some
it.
things. And
Yes.
if y'all don't like it, then let's open that conversation up to that too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I saw it for the first time yesterday. She does look phenomenal. If you see the before and after, and I thought she looked great
She did.
before. But
She
when you
looked
see the
amazing.
before and then you see the after, you're like, I didn't think she had that many wrinkles. Like I thought she looked great. I think
Yes.
they also pulled the worst picture they could pull,
Probably. Yeah.
probably. Because she always looks phenomenal. But I did $100,000 is what that
Yeah.
surgeon cost her to do,
Mhm.
which he better be good,
Yeah.
at that price.
Yeah.
Not all of us. So finance wise, Miss Erika, how do we save $100,000? Is that a
So,
wise decision for us to be spending
so
money on?
full full disclosure. Full disclosure. I am 41
Okay.
years old and I am a skincare fiend.
Yeah.
I am all about, you can judge my choices, that's fine. I'm not going to judge yours, but I really am into skincare and taking care of my face and my body and all of those things. So, I personally have a dedicated plastic surgery fund. I'm like I said, I'm 41, but I have every intention in my 50s or 60s to have money available should I decide to have a full plain vertical facelift,
Yeah.
a la Kris Jenner.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to a bigger thing here. You are allowed to have priorities in your life of how you want to spend your money. And there might be people who disagree with you on how you choose to spend your money. People have hobbies like golf or, whatever it is. There's expensive things out there that we have horseback riding, or, all those
Yeah.
things. You're allowed to spend the money however you want at the end of the day. And that's why, I always say stay on your mat. Don't worry about what other people are doing or if they choose to judge you for that. As long as you have your other priorities fulfilled, you've got your retirement account, you've got that emergency fund, you're happy with the way you spend money, you're content with your life. And if you choose to spend your money on plastic surgery or whatever it is, you're allowed to do that. Now, I will say this, we have care credit out there,
Yeah.
or Cherry. There's all these other payment systems that allow you to, break up payments for plastic surgery or, spa or aesthetic procedures. Um, my advice is going to stick there. If you have to finance plastic surgery, I don't necessarily think that that is an ideal situation. Do
Right.
what you can to save as much as you can to, boost the way you feel about yourself, but don't do it at the expense of your finances. But if you want to build up some savings, by all means, I'm doing it too.
Yeah. And there's also, and I don't know enough about this to go into this, but there's like HSA accounts for some employers have those. Some of them will match some things as far as like what you want to do medically, and there are stipulations there. So I'm mentioning that with like full transparency. I know nothing about what I'm talking about, but I know, and I don't know what the rules and regulations are on that and what you can use it for, but I know those are some other options with corporations that you may work for. So make sure that you're looking into that. Because there's options there as well that you can start putting money away for those things. And I'm sure Erika can help you with all of that. So this was a super fun turn. That was awesome. Kris Jenner is not an answer I've had. And literally yesterday, I'm not joking, Erika. I literally saw, I was online. And like I said, I don't do a lot of scrolling during the day. I'm super hyper focused. And it's taken me a while to get there. But when I started learning about how much I'm scrolling and how much I'm not focused on work, then I'm like, okay, I get to focus on that. But sometimes you open the browser and something pops up and Kris Jenner popped up. And I'm like, and I'm not a huge Kardashian fan, full transparency. We're a little different there. But again, no judgment, no right or wrong. I'm a Hallmark fan. You may think that I'm mushy and crazy. But yeah, we all have our thing. But I am intrigued by her. No matter what you feel about her, right or wrong, she's created a massive empire. And that family is close and they are connected from what I did see. I don't know where they are now, but from what I did see, they were close and connected, and they've created a massive empire together. She is a very intelligent woman. She's very, I wouldn't say calculated. I don't like that word because I feel like it comes off too masculine and not appropriate. I feel like she's just smart. And that she's very intentional is a better word.
She's very intentional. Yeah.
She's very intentional. I don't like calculated. She's very intentional with the decisions she makes. And I'm very in awe of all of that, with the massive empire she's built beyond the men that she's married and all of that, because she's done this on her own. Yeah. So yeah, I love the plastic surgery talk because I haven't had that conversation here. So, and we are shifting this podcast. We're like opening new doors for new conversations because being seen, being heard, being empowered isn't just about going to business. It's about other things. So Erika, I just want to say thank you. This has been an honor and a joy. This is why I love off the cuff conversations with my guests, because I never would know where they're going to go. And this one was truly spectacular for me. So I've had a great time, and I hope that for you listening, please go check out Erika. Please connect with her. Go to beyondfinance.com. Go get some support that you need. Even if you feel like you're in a good place, then still go find out what other better places you can be moving into. Okay. And if you're younger and you're looking at plastic surgery, like we're looking at stuff, can go like, maybe that's something in our future. Plan for it. And Erika's going to help you make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same thing with college for your kids and schooling with your kids. Like no matter where you're at, no matter what you want to create. And I love what you said, Erika, about no judgment. It doesn't matter what other people want for you or don't want for you. It's your life. If you are thinking that you want to, your face and your body are important to you, then make sure you make that a priority. Don't let anybody tell you no. If you feel like your children's schooling, because this is another controversy. There's many parents out there that think their kids should pay for it. They want it. They should pay for it. Other parents are like, nope, we should handle that. There's no right or wrong with that. If you feel like whatever side of the fence you fall on, make sure you're planning for that. And you're also, I think even if your kids are taking on that role, let them learn, like teach them and set them up for success by getting with somebody like Erika to help best them navigate that for their future as well.
For sure. Right? And even if you might want to do something, you might think right now, like, okay, maybe I want to do that facelift, or maybe I want to help my kids with their college or with their down payment. Start saving for it anyway. And if you change your mind, you are also allowed to change your mind.
Yeah, good. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Erika. Is there anything we talked about a lot? Is there anything that I haven't asked you or that you want to touch on that you want to share before we wrap?
All I want to do is just reiterate, you are not alone in anything here when it comes to your money. We all make mistakes. There is no expectation to be perfect. And the only thing you owe yourself is everything. So put yourself first.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So I'm not going to even say anything else on that, except go connect with Erika, go to beyondfinance.com. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, and not Instagram, that's a social media. iHeartRadio or Amazon, and you can leave a review. Please do, because this is going to help us share the women that we bring on this stage in this podcast with more women. That's the goal, is to empower women to be seen and heard in any capacity that they want to feel seen and heard. And that's whether that's taking care of you and your self-care, whether that's helping your children, whether that's navigating a relationship or building a business or getting a better job. We're here to support you. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, share this with more people so we can help other women reach the goals that they want to reach. And in the meantime, we will see you on the next episode of the Be She podcast. Be empowered to be seen and heard.